Hey guys, this is Sean Run Bum Blanton, race director of Run Bum Races, also the owner. 12 years ago, I started putting on trail and ultra running races that I wanted to run for other people. And now it's morphed into something absolutely amazing, I think, which is we have 11 events a year, all the way from Central Florida to Southern Virginia. This past weekend, though, we had our famed 9th annual sold out Cloudland Canyon trail race, which had a 50 miler, a 50K, a half marathon, and a 5-mile race. We had over 400 plus people show up and run the events this weekend. We had a blast. I interviewed Kyle Kraeft from Tallahassee, Florida, who was second place in the 50 miler, absolutely threw down. Kyle has been crushing it all year long, from a second place finish at Pinhoti 100 miler, a second place finish at Rebecca Mountain 50 miler, a fourth place finish at Pinhoti 100 miler, and now a second place finish at our Cloudland Canyon 50 miler. Kyle talks about life, how to run, so many training tips, running with Crohn's and what that means to him, and what you can do to be a better runner, train smarter, run faster, and fuel better. Our next guest here on this week's podcast is Kyle Kraeft out of Tallahassee, Florida. This past weekend, he threw down and was second place at the Cloudland Canyon 50 miler. More recently, this entire year, he's been crushing it. He was second place at Rebecca Mountain 50 miler. He was fourth place at Pinhoti 100 miler. Guys and gals, let's welcome Kyle to the Run Bum podcast. Kyle, welcome, buddy.
Woo! And just the applause in the background.
That's right. My phone just started ringing off the hook with sponsors connected just to you. Another thing, for those of you all watching the video, you'll notice that Kyle's name on here is Ron Blanton, which is his alter ego. Kyle came down and ran, or rather, should I say, came over from Tallahassee to the Swanee River for a Wild Florida 50K a couple weekends ago and ran an aid station. And he did like an exaggerated redneck version of me, which was kind of funny. Kyle, let's talk about that first and foremost. Wild Florida, you were there, you ran an aid station. How did that go?
Yeah, it was great. And I was awaiting you to come around the corner because I was just hoping to be reunited with long-lost cousins from ages ago, and you wouldn't remember me, but I thought that was the perfect time to reveal myself to you. And Sean was delighted to see me when he did, so it was perfect. And yeah, so I haven't crewed and worked aid stations that much before, but I had such a blast out there. Like, everybody was super cool. It was really fun, and just the energy and everything, and like getting out there and encouraging other runners, especially when you know what it's like to be deep in a race and being like tired and stuff, and just like how meaningful it can be sometimes to just like say a word of encouragement or be goofy or like give somebody a quesadilla or whatever it is to like help people along. And yeah, we just had a blast out there. It was a fun time.
And that was cool because I actually got to run my own 50K. I've never done that in all 12 years of race directing, which I don't know if that was a good thing or not. Deanna killed it without me. But it's really cool coming into, I think you guys are 18 and a half miles in, at least for me, having that hype and that energy. I mean, sometimes you come to an aid station, they have everything you need, but really what you need is just positive energy and somebody to be like, hey, you actually don't look like shit, even though you do. And it's like, man, hey, it's like little white lies. Like, I feel great right now, even though you don't. Thank you guys again. And so let's talk about Cloudland Canyon 50 miler. So for those of you guys tuning in on this, Cloudland Canyon 50 mile over the years has changed a lot. Like, I design all our courses and I kind of tweak things. We used to have this loop called the Bear Creek Loop, and we did it right in the dark at the very beginning. Now, Bear Creek itself, like the trail, starts up on the plateau, drops all the way down, maybe 300-400 feet, and then goes 300-400 feet back up the other side and does this really cool, it's a beautiful loop, but you have to cross Bear Creek. Now, I was originally told by one of my good friends, Sourdough, who was one of the trail maintainers there, it's his through hiking name as well, that Bear Creek crossing itself is 80% of the time, it's a rock hop. And 20% of the time, you should not go down that. And when it floods out, flood stage is class 5 plus rapids. Like people have died kayaking this stuff. So last year we had really high rain right before the race, kind of like we did this year, and it was not safe to cross. So I took that out and added some other stuff and was able to which made the course more runnable. This year, we had Lula Lake Land Trust built like an entire new trail system. I actually helped 3 days in building it, and they're absolutely, to me, the gym of this 50-mile course. The 50K does not do it. And that's like this big loop. It's like 4 or 5 mile loop on the furthest point out. And so I think it makes it a little faster run. We also saw this year, there's a lot of people racing really hard. Kyle being one of those, our winner, Alex, pardon me for his last name. Yep, that's it. Yep. So Kyle also ran this race in 2020. He shaved off over 2 hours from his previous time. So Kyle, like, you've been crushing it this year. You run Cloudland right after Pinhoti, like a month and a half later. Talk to me about your training, what you did differently, how you've been attacking things, and then let's talk about the race itself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think when I think about the training, I think people will ask me, like, if they, like, people that I meet now will look at my Strava or whatever and be like, dude, like, gosh, you're like crushing miles and like putting in all this time, and it's like, if I would have done 60% of what I do now, like a couple of years ago, I would have gotten injured. Like, I could not have maintained like the load and stuff of training. So it's been like one of those things that's taken me, gosh, years now to build up to, like, running. I've been running for like 5-6 years now, and which is fairly recent still, but I've been building since then, like just steady miles every week, and then like doing races and building up. And so Cloudland in 2020 was my first 50 miler, and I just like completely blew up, like death marched in, was having a terrible day, like got passed by 20 people like in the last few miles and everything. And then now my training just has been a lot more steady, a lot more like I feel like I leave some on the table sometimes, which I think is a really good principle to have in general. Just like not doing everything you could possibly do, but just doing like a really good amount of training. So I put in a lot of miles, a lot of time, spent some time in the mountains over the last few months. And and so Pinhoti like was good, and I bounced back really quick from that. And then going into this one, I was just kind of like, it's not like, I already did my 100 for the year. That was kind of my A race. And so this one was more like, hey, I can play around, I can have fun, like I can push myself and just see what happens. And like, if I feel like I can go for it, just go for it. And so I did. And it was really fun, man. Like, I just enjoyed meeting everybody and then getting out there. And there was a point where the race definitely transitioned from like, I'm hanging out, I'm having fun, I'm running, to like, this really sucks, but I really like, I'm doing pretty good and I need to like buckle down. I remember like running into you at mile 33 aid station, and you like were just like, hey man, like now's the time to turn it on, like go and like crush it, like go and you can do this, you can catch number one, like you can do it. And it like immediately like brought reality back to me, where I'm like, oh yeah, like this is gonna be over soon. I just gotta like really like tune in, eat my food, like do whatever I have to do, and just push through the pain and the the fatigue and everything. And like it just made it to where like I finished better than I would have previously, So
yeah, so it was funny because like I remember saying that, I was like, all right, man, you can turn it on now, and your wife was there working the aid station, and we were all kind of just like goofing about, right? And it's like one of those Ricky Bobby moments, like, if you ain't first, you're last. And it's like, I don't even remember saying that. Like, but it was funny. Yeah. And it's like, the one thing that I saw between you and Alex, which was very unique compared to other folks running, even they were amazing, was you guys the entire time kept a full stride. Like, so you can tell a lot And I can tell a lot by somebody who's raced a lot and been around ultra running and trail running and running just a lot, is you can see that like how somebody is like their stride and, you know, how they look, you know, you can tell like the quality of runner. And like you said, your bank of miles that you've just been doing for the last 5-6 years, like slowly building. And, you know, what I got out of that was just consistency trumps all. I say that all the time. Consistency. And especially with ultra running, period. And
sure.
You know, when people, and this is for people listening, unsolicited quote unquote coaching advice, and do what you want. But one of the things that I used to do when I was the fastest I had ever been was I would run miles, but I wouldn't do quote unquote garbage miles. Everything I did, you know, my minimum pace, whatever it might be, I still tried to keep a full stride or like to a certain extent. And then beyond that, you know, I would maybe lengthen a little bit, but really it was more just quick turnover. And that for me ended up being about an 8:30. And I could see that when both of you guys were running. It's like, damn, dude, these guys got a quick turnover and a big stride. And it's equating to you're running a 7-8 minute mile with ease for a lot of this, you know, and obviously it's not flat. So there's a lot of up and down. But after we saw you at mile 33, you actually caught Alex at the next aid station, which is what, about mile 40?
So I decided before I got there, I'm like, all right, I think I have enough water to survive and enough gels and stuff on me to survive to the end. Like the only chance I have of catching this guy is just to blow through the aid station, not stop, and just give it everything I have to finish the last 10 miles. And so like I run through the aid station and I'm like probably running like a 7:30 pace or something through the aid station. I'm like, which way do I go? And they like pointed me in that direction. Well, he heard me say that and I didn't realize he was by his car at the aid station. And so I just ran right past him and blistered past him. And he was like, huh, dude, what happened? Where did you come from? And so he like dropped everything in his hands and like got on my tail. And I was like, this is the only chance right now. Like I have to drop him really hard and like crush his spirit right now, or else like there's no chance that I'm going to beat him. And so I like just went as fast as I could, like 7-minute pace. I'm so tired. I'm like cramping up and everything. And I ran like that for about a half mile until I was completely gassed. And like I started getting like a side stitch really bad. And I'm like, there's no way I can maintain this right now. And he's still right behind me. And so he just like went right around me and just like took off into the woods. And I'm like, well, that completely backfired. Like that was not what I was trying to do. So I'm like, well, I gave him my best, man. But the guy's just like, he's fit as a fiddle. And he just such a strong runner. Like he's fairly new to it as well. And man, kudos to him. Like he was able to stop and like tend to himself at the aid stations and also maintain like a really fast pace the whole day. And like I was just trying to give it my best, you know, but yeah, after that it was like just try to survive to the finish, you know. But it was a funny thing. Apparently I scared him really bad and he ran like terrified to the end, like looking over his shoulder and stuff, which, you know, I'll take it. So
that's awesome. Well, then you can at least say he didn't lead the whole race.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
There's
a half mile in there. Yeah.
Half mile. So here's what's funny, because we were talking to him. He said that he was like had like lube in his hand and was like trying to lube himself so he wouldn't chafe. And he was like, I don't care if I chafe or not. And then just took off. And I'm like, well, when you get in the shower later, you definitely get.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, here's what's really cool. And I think he was only a couple minutes in front of you at the finish. So like you guys were really close. I mean, that's a hell of an effort. And I believe, and I know, like I said before, we've changed the course slightly, but both of you guys finished under 8 hours, which a trail 50 mile, and it's a true 50 miles. I think most people 50 to 51, which is perfect, dead on. But, you know, considering you have to go down into the canyon and back up, that really slows people down. I mean, that's amazing, dude. That's really solid. But what I was going to say is you touched on this a little bit, and I want to relate this for people who are maybe have never led a race, won a race, or whatever. It's a really different mindset when you're racing all out. And I always say where I want to be for most of the race is in second place or third place.
Yeah.
But I know where the guy up front is, because when you're up front, you're not having fun per se.
No. The pressures. Yeah.
The pressure's on you. You're like, where's the guy behind me? And you know as well as I know, I could be 30 seconds in front of somebody, or you in front of somebody or behind somebody, and you don't ever see them.
No.
So you're entirely reliant upon what people you pass on the trail. Hey, how close to the closest guy in front of you? And like, people aren't really paying attention.
Right.
Every now and then you get an aid station, there's some guy who's like super meticulous, like he is 97 seconds in front of you, and you're so brain fogged, you're like, I don't even know what that means. But yeah, it's a very interesting thing. It's like every time you like, oh man, I'm gonna walk up this hill, in your mind, you're like, he's gonna catch me. He's gonna catch me. He's gonna catch me. So another thing I want to ask, so you guys obviously with the Cloudland 50 miler and all the races at Cloudland, the 50K, the half marathon, not the 5 mile, they all plunge down to the bottom of this canyon, right?
Yeah,
So it's like 700 feet down from the top. First half of it is just like 600 plus stairs, just straight down into this canyon. And then you hit crushed gravel, and it's kind of a douche grade downhill, like another mile and change, all the way to this turnaround at an aid station. Now, when you turn back around, and this in 50K and 50 mile, this is like the first 10 miles of the race or so. Are you running? Did you run the stairs? Did you run the uphill? Like, what did you run?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that was the point. Like, and this is something too that, just balancing that race mindset with like a reality check and having some experience. Like, you kind of know where your governor should be at with stuff like that. And you could blast up. And I let Alex pass me, and I was hanging out with Justin. We were just like real chatty and stuff, going through the technical stuff. Because if you look at my heart rate and stuff during that part, it was super low, like going down, like just wanting to be careful on the wet rocks and everything. Like if you fall and break your ankle, then like you're not going to win the race, either. So yeah, just went down pretty chill. And on the way back up, I would run until I was like getting out of breath, and I could tell my heart rate was like skyrocketing. And then I would just chill out for a second, hike for a minute. I hiked up probably most of the stairs. I would like skip a stair, but I was just trying to like get in like a nice steady pace where I'm still making like good headway, but like not where I'm going to gas myself. And my goal was to get out of the canyon without feeling like completely trashed, which is really like, I think the first time I did it, when I came out, like I was hurting bad, and it was hard to run after you come back out. Like after a big climb like that, your legs are tired. You're not going to really open up your stride again. You could just like be surviving the rest of the race. And so I ended up actually taking some Tylenol, like mile 20 or something like that. And it helped me to kind of open back up and like feel a little bit better and keep rolling, some caffeine. But yeah, I didn't run. I walked a good bit of that. I clocked in like 14-minute mile in there and stuff. So I wasn't like cruising at that point.
It's interesting because one thing that I heard, because I think it was for the 50 miler, I guess it was, and the 50K, I was at the group lodge aid station. So if you're not familiar with the race, you basically start off for the 50K and the 50 miler, and you essentially run about 2 miles of road to thin out. 50 miler, you do like a small loop in the dark. It's like 4 miles. Then you run that same 2 miles or so out, and then you jump onto trail, which is pretty technical for about a mile. And then you go down the stairs, hit the bottom of the canyon, and come back up, back to the start finish area or the group lodge. You hit an aid station, and then you go out on way, way more runnable, mainly multi-use trails that don't really feel like mountain bike or multi-use trails. It's just super runnable and flowy. It has like small little hills that you can choose to walk or choose to run. All of it's runnable as far as I'm concerned. Maybe a half mile is steeper. But with that being said, I can't tell you how many people middle back of the pack got back to that point and were just like, oh my God, I'm done. I'm dead. It's like, wow. Yeah. And hey, cool. No hate on that. But unsolicited advice, and we're going to go into this with Kyle here in a second, as he lives in Florida. He lives in a hillier part, because I think Tallahassee definitely has some nice hills, but you definitely don't have an 1,100-foot canyon. But the cool part about all of these events is the race course. There's blogs out there. We also have the Run Bum Races Facebook group. You can ask questions about the races, how to train, all this stuff like that. But it's like that, those stairs are there. I heard a lot of people who are like, dude, I've been using your tips to use the Stairmaster. That really helped on that. I cannot emphasize that enough. Stairmaster. But it's kind of like an open book test, right? Like you've been able to study for this, you've been able to train for that or not. And again, no hate, whatever. I'm just saying, help us make it easier for you. So I guess now we can segue that into what specific training living in Florida did you do for the hillier sections and the canyon to prep for this?
Yeah, for sure. And I would just like studying for a course doesn't have to be like an exam where you're just like sitting down for hours, but like literally just pulling up the file, the GPX file, pulling up like a map app. And usually there's a link that Sean will put in the information on the race that you can click on and just look at the elevation profile. And you can look for a couple things, like look for the peaks and valleys and stuff on the elevation profile, and then try to understand like how many feet it actually is and the distance from like the bottom part of the spike to the top part of the spike. And that will give you some idea of the grade that's there. And it'll even tell you if you like scroll around and just give you some idea of like where the climbing is and what it's going to be like for a race. And that like really does like, that is not something that will raise your anxiety necessarily. It could be something that relieves it to where you're like, no, like I should be going pretty slow right now because this is a hard part of the race. And that was my expectation going into it. Like going into the canyon was like, no, this is the time to like really take it easy, not push too hard. And then it's going to be super runnable, which it was. And like when I got out of there, like I clocked that 14-minute mile. And then like I was clocking like 8-minute pace for like majority of the rest of the race, you know, minus some of the climbs there. And so like just very dramatic. And that if I would have thought the whole course was going to be like the canyon, that would have like gotten in my head too, probably, you know? So yeah. But yeah, training here and stuff, like I will do monotonous hill repeats on the little hills that I have. And you can use it for mental training, stuff like that. And like the actual physical adaptations that you get from it. Where, listen, if monotony is hard for you as a runner, like you're going to get to a place in a race where it's going to feel like you're going to be tired of seeing the same trail section. It's going to feel like it never ends. And that's a great opportunity to mentally find something that will either get you excited to where you're just like very present and tuned into it, or you just completely dissociate and you're just like listening to a song or like off in your own little world. And you just like check out completely and you keep grinding, you know, and that kind of stuff is just really helpful to know that like there can be like purpose for every little thing you do in training that helps. So yeah, I'll do like my little hills, but I mean, most of my like vert training was like going up to in the end of September, beginning of October, we went on a trip. I went and ran the Pinhoti Trail before that race for a few days. We went to like North Georgia. I ran on the DRT for a day, and then we went to Asheville. I ran up there. We went to the Smokies. Like I was putting in like a lot of time in like mountainous terrain. So I knew like all that was like still under my belt from Pinhoti, you know, being only a month away. And I was like, like I'm not going to really worry about doing too much more of that. Like that, those adaptations will stick with you. So I just like for the month in between Pinhoti and Cloudland was just like, I'm going to try to do a little bit of speed and like get my leg speed back up, so that like I can actually move comfortably at a little bit of a quicker speed, and I'm not like that slow like mountain leg kind of thing that was going on with Pinhoti. So yeah, I mean I was like went and trained for like the turkey trot and that kind of thing, and like was trying to run a little quicker, and you know you can only do so much in a few weeks, but I felt like it really helped me just to get my legs moving, and it makes training interesting too when you do that, because like I don't always do exactly the same kind of training. Like right now I'm gonna like hit the roads, which I never do, and like try to do like fast training for like a month and just have fun with it and like make different little goals. And then, you know, as the beginning of the new year comes, like I'll shift to like more mountainy kind of slow, like 100-mile endurance training again, you know. But like that kind of stuff, man, just like always finding something fun to like find some kind of goal that you want to work toward and find a way to make it like interesting for you. And you'll always be able to cycle through and like make your training fun, where it's not always this boring same old thing every day, you know?
Hell yeah. A couple things on that I want to add to is, as somebody who lives in Georgia and does a lot of, I do very minimal miles, but high intensity, and I'm trying to build up my base again. But one thing that I see a lot of people in the mountain areas that have access to a lot of trails and mountain trails and stuff like that, it's like most of their runs are run hikes.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. You kind of have to do that, right? But when you're only doing that and you're not doing flat road, or you're not doing flat trails or easy rolling trails where you're running all of it, you tend to lose a lot of speed, right? If you think of it this way, if you go out for a 10-mile run in the mountains, you're probably running downhill for a third of it, you're running flat maybe for a third of it, and you're going uphill for a third of it. And that means that really you're not, if you do 50 miles in a week, like you're not really getting a lot of running miles that are flat or uphill. Only a third of your miles are where you're actually running without gravity assisting you, if that makes sense. So that's why I always recommend go to group road runs, do some stuff on the track, and you talked about monotony and, mental, hardening your mind, like Goggins says. It's like, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And I cannot tell you the dividends that you will reap from doing road and flat running. I mean, and I'm talking about nonstop running, and that will translate directly into your trail runs and your races and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people focus too much on the, doing big miles, big climbing and stuff like that. And it's fun and it's awesome for your brain, and, you're fine for doing 50Ks and whatever. But like, if you really want to if you're really trying to up, your speed and how well you're doing in these events, the only way to do that is by running faster and running flatter for a lot of it, and getting that quicker turnover.
If I could just do that too, most coaches that are legit will say you should do your least specific to the race that you're trying to do to the most specific closer to the race. So like for me, I'm far away, as I will be, from my races in the spring. So I'm doing stuff that's the least specific to it, but I'm like working on weaknesses and like trying to button up some things and make sure I'm not getting injured and stuff like that. And then I'm going to move to like the more specific, that's very, very specific to the race that I'm going to be doing. And so like the very specific for Cloudland for me was, I knew I was going to do a big climb at the beginning, and then on the legs that just did a bunch of climbing, I'm going to need to run quicker. So like I went out and I hammered a hill for like 30 minutes where it was just like hard climbing up and down this hill for a while until my legs were tired. And then I did some like speed stuff after that, like did some faster up tempo stuff, and with tired legs, and you're just like, oh man, this like really sucks. Like I can't get my legs moving fast. But I literally practiced doing that exact thing, knowing that that was what was going to happen at Cloudland. And so it just got my legs used to it mentally. Like it gets you like, okay, this is what it's going to feel like. So I need to like be prepared for that and like have my expectations set, So that's like, it's pretty like intuitive if you think about it like that.
Well, and what you're doing is basically like you're putting your legs, and this is one of the workouts, if you don't have a hill, that I always recommend, again, on our runbumtours.com website, not to sell promo, but I'm trying to help people out here. We have free training plans, and and this isn't just a free training plan. I've spent a lot of time writing, 20 pages on how to train. One of the things I recommend is you do a Stairmaster workout. Anytime you do a Stairmaster workout, you always need to go directly from that directly to the treadmill. And it talks about that. Exactly what Kyle's talking about. You're putting your legs in a lactic threshold, a lactic, whatever. And then you're all of a sudden having to switch gears and then get the quick turnover. The better you get at that, the quicker your heart rate drops, the lower it drops, and the more power you have, and the quicker you can get back to running at a normal pace.
For sure.
But So Kyle, the next thing I wanted to talk about, if it's okay with you, is one of the things that as somebody who can very, very slightly relate, in no way, shape, or form, but very kind of relate to what you go through as somebody who has really messed up stomach issues. You battle Crohn's, and you're able to come up here and race like this. How does that affect you running a race and training? And I just want to say, dude, that's awesome. Not awesome you have that, but I think it's amazing that you go through that and you're still able to push and stuff like that. Like, where so many people find an excuse and all this, just any type of excuse that are pretty lame, yet you have a valid, thing going on, and you still push through that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's like a couple thoughts that I have on that. One is like I am very like fortunate to not have it to the degree that other people have it, where they're in the hospital like multiple times a week even and stuff, where it's just like crippling for life. And I don't know, like maybe sometimes I downplay like some of the stuff. Like, I don't want to make excuses. So like if I am having stomach issues and like, or I'm like fatigued, like autoimmune kind of weird stuff, like I think I've just gotten used to it. And it's just kind of normal for me. And I forget that it's different. And I forget that like, like I deal with that. But yeah, I mean, like every single big race that I've had, like 50 miles or more, I have had significant GI issues. And like, I know that's common, like for people that don't have like some sort of GI problem like I do, but it, yeah, it's just like, I'll be really anxious leading up to it. And everybody's a little bit anxious about this for the most part, but like, I'm like, dang it. Like if I have a bad stomach day, like I could like have to crap like 15 times, you know what I mean? Like, and just thinking about that, like during a race setting like that's my race. Like it'll be over if I'm like out in the bushes, like every couple of minutes or whatever. So I'm conscious of that, like worried about like, am I going to have to go to the bathroom? Like that's going to suck. And then, so I'm like try to be very careful with what I eat, like leading up to it. And then just like, I'll bring wet wipes with me. And like, please, like if you're new to ultra running, just bring wet wipes with you. Like you're carrying like a little extra thing, like bring something with you. Cause like, you just never know. It's just something that once you learn that the hard way, you will like, yeah, like it sucks so bad being stuck out in the middle of the woods. Like I did this race in Utah, and I was in the Wasatch Mountains, this 100K, and I didn't have toilet paper. And I remember at like mile 50 having to stop and like trying to use like leaves and stuff. And this is how bad it got. I literally got up and was like holding my butt cheeks because I was chafing so bad. Like I was like walking down this dirt road and in the middle of Utah, out in the middle of nowhere, and just like, this is the worst day of my life, So yeah, I mean, like everybody, like the biggest problem with people that's been noted for not finishing race, like the biggest reason for DNFs is some kind of GI distress. So like everybody has to deal with it on one level. I don't know if like I'm dealing with it worse than other people. I just get really nauseous. Like usually into a race. And so I think it's good in one sense because it makes me have to think through the same principles that everybody has to think through, but I have to like really pay attention to it and like be really careful. So I think through like diet and nutrition stuff, like a lot. And the other thing is like, you have to eat, you have to take in carbs, like during a race, like you will not like it's so common that people will be like, gosh, I don't know, I just feel so bad right now. And it's like, well, how much have you eaten in the last hour? And they're like, well, I don't know, like I had like a quesadilla like at the last, and it's like, dude, that's not enough. Like you actually have to pay attention to how many carbs you're having. Like I was pushing 80 to 100 carbs an hour at Cloudland, and it kept my engine burning hot. Like that was why I was able to run toward the end. So like, you have to figure out what is it going to take for me to be able to eat enough to where I can, and 80 to 100 is a lot. Like that's a super high end of like how much you can take in, but at least like 40 to 60 carbs an hour, like 2 or 3 gels an hour, if you're having gels, is like, you absolutely need that every single hour. And so for me, like, I just try to strategize. I drink some, I have some gels, And then when I get to the aid station, it's a rule for me. Like I'll eat one corner of a quesadilla, just get something like solid in my stomach. And usually that's like the perfect recipe for me to like just continue like going forward. I'm not doing anything dramatic. I'm not doing anything that'll make me, that'll make my stomach weird. I'm not eating too much or too little, at aid stations, or eating weird stuff that I'm not used to eating. Like all that kind of stuff is super tempting, but yeah, you just got to be aware of it and like, be all business. Like don't be dumb, when you're out there.
No brats at the
Brats. Oh gosh.
Dude, I'll tell you something. I mean, that's all great information. And how many times have you heard people be like, "Oh, my stomach's sour, so I just stopped eating."
Yeah.
Oh my God, like you said, it's like if you want the engine to keep running hot, you have to have fuel. The only thing that blows my mind is a lot of people are like, okay, well, in training runs, I only have X amount of food, right? But when you have pace and you have all that anxiety, do all this stuff, you need more fuel.
Yeah.
And also during a race, you're not stopping as much when you do during like a fun run. You're like, oh, look, there's a bird, honey. Let's stop for 20 minutes and take a photo and then, talk about it on social media. And it's like your heart rate comes down. It's totally different, right? The other thing I noticed too is a lot of people don't eat enough before the race, like especially like an early race, like example, Cloudland Canyon 50 miler. We started like 6:30 in the morning. There's a lot of people who have not eaten breakfast. They're like, this is too early, or I don't want to wake up. It's like, I always start a 50-mile race and a 50K, like an ultra, with food, like where I'm not like full, but it's like, I don't need food for an hour.
Yeah.
Period.
For sure. Same here, dude. That's something I've like practiced, like literally almost every day now. I wake up and eat oatmeal now, like just like I've got my stomach to where I'm used to waking up, eating oatmeal. I'll let my blood sugar like regulate for like an hour or something and kind of digest a little bit, and then I'm fine. I go out and run, and that's just my routine now. So like on race dates, same business as usual. I wake up, I do the same thing I do every other day, and that helps like the anxiety. Like you're not doing something dramatically different than your normal routine, just like, and so crushing some oatmeal, like shoot, when you're just standing there at the start line, you could be munching on something, and just getting like that extra fuel in, and like that's just gonna help you at that point too, like you're saying. So
I always do. You'll see me at a start line of an ultra. I'll have like a banana in my hand, like, so let's move away from nutrition for a second. I want to talk about what are your 2024 goals? Like I see you're signed up for Cruel Jewel. I don't see anything else you're signed up. Like what's your game plan
here? Yeah. Cruel Jewel will be like my A race, at least for the spring, until like the fall probably. So yeah, I don't know why I signed up for that. Now I'm like mixed feelings because it's gonna be like really hard. It's a super tough 100. But yeah, I'm just gonna go all in and just see what happens. And then I'll probably do like some tune-up B races and stuff like leading up to it. I've got a free entry to Lake Martin because I was supposed to do Lake Martin this year and I fractured my hip right before it, so I can go and maybe do Lake Martin 50 or 100 leading up to it. So I'm thinking about doing that. And then besides that, just like I'll probably get out of Florida to train and stuff for those and just like go up, like run in North Georgia, like spend like a couple days. Like I'll do like a little camp thing where I'll just go and like camp in my tent for 3 days and just run like long miles 3 days in a row, like a month out from the race. And that's usually perfect. Like gets all your stuff tuned up, like legs and everything for the mountain terrain. I'll like scope out the course and stuff sometimes too. And like, that kind of stuff is like, you get a huge bang for your buck for doing like back-to-back hard efforts like that. You don't have to do that like year round, but like going out like, 6 weeks to a month before a race, like I found that really works well for me. And so yeah, I'm stoked, man. I don't know what'll happen at Cruel Jewel. I don't have like super big goals. I'm just really out there just to like, challenge myself and see what happens. But if I end up like doing well, then I'll try to push. So.
Oh yeah. Now, one thing we haven't talked about yet is, again, you're in Tallahassee. I don't know what, 5-6 months ago, I randomly sent you a message and was like, "Hey, dude, let's start like like are there group runs, trail runs there?" And you said inconsistently people go run, but not really. I was like, "Dude, like let's start a trail run there or whatever." However it went, and you are like the godfather now of Tallahassee trail running, and you've started this group, which I was there. Deanna and I were there the first night that you guys did that. The Tallahassee Trail Runners, I think, as we call it now, is Facebook group, which is super inclusive of all paces and stuff like that. It's super fun. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, for one, I'm super grateful for you for like getting that going. Like, I don't think I would not have not initiated, so I like really appreciate you going around like stirring up trouble everywhere you go. And so yeah, like it was cool, man. Like I think I was a little bit surprised that like, yeah, there's a lot of people who really want to get out there and do that and to run on trails and stuff, but they're just a little hesitant. And so they just end up not doing it. And having like other people there to like have some camaraderie, like have a little bit of a safety net and that kind of thing, like it really makes it more accessible. And then people get out there, and I've just been so happy like how much fun everybody has going out there, like how much of like a little community is starting to develop, and like like people are like hanging out with each other outside of the group now, and like having like hangouts and dinner and like all kinds of stuff like that. And so I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. Like I didn't know that all this would come from just trying to consistently meet together. So it's been a really fun thing, and like I'm excited to like try to foster like more and more growth there. And it's just fun, man, like getting out and like meeting other people and like helping them on their journey and just like reciprocating that kind of stuff. Like it's just really fun. Like you shouldn't always be alone like running.
No, for sure. It's really cool because I've come out 3-4 times now, I feel like, over the past 5 or 6 months, however long it's been going on. And the first night we had it, I posted a bunch about it. We posted a bunch in the Gulf Winds track club, and I think there was like 20 plus people out there first night. It's epic. Last time we came out there, which was 2 weeks ago, there was 20 people out there, and it's really cool. Group runs, the fact that you guys have a group trail run is amazing. Like there's very few places on the East Coast I've been where there's regular group trail runs, and probably one of the only ones I know that's a midweek group trail run. So that's really cool. But the one thing that I say all the time is that I do not think everyone's journey in running needs to be to run an ultra marathon or 100 miles or whatever. It's like, hey, do what is fun for you? Do what calls to you. I love running 25K or less personally. Trail races, I love that. It's like my bread and butter. I do ultras from time to time because that's also fun in a different, unique way. But with that being said, it's really cool because there's a lot of people out there. Yes, they're doing ultras, and there's a lot of people out there who are just run walking. People who are training for like the local turkey trot 10K. It's just that want to be part of the group and want that motivation. I think it's awesome. And it's the same thing I experienced when I started putting on races. It's just like, wow, I never knew it would get to where it is now, And if anybody's listening to this, like you want to start a group run, please do that. It's all about consistency, creating a safe place in the sense of where people feel, like they're not going to get left behind. They're not going to get lost. Like people care about them, and it's just awesome. Big kudos to you for doing that. Like what an awesome group. I think, and then a bunch of you guys came and volunteered and or ran the Wild Florida 50K. And I'll tell you right now, as a big drop right now, we are hopefully going to have a race the first weekend and first Saturday rather in March 2nd, I believe it is, within a 45-minute drive of Tallahassee. So I'm really excited about that. We can talk more information when that drops, but I'm excited about that. And yeah, man, keep doing what you're doing. You're killing it. Thanks for sharing your story. Before we go, I always try to give guests on here, maybe give people like some motivation or some tidbits for running or training. And I'll give you I'll give you the mic for a minute. And
Yeah.
go it.
Yeah. So lesson from Cloudland that I took away from it, like just for life in general, but also applies to ultra running, right? Is like sometimes when things get the hardest and you are feeling like the most beat up and tired, that's the time when you need to turn it on. And like that's when you need to press into the discomfort the most. And I just feel like that's such a great lesson from running for life, where you're tempted just to ease off or just sort of coast through life and like not really press into it. But like the difference between like doing well and like tapping out on life sometimes is just like when you're uncomfortable and life is hard and you're tired, like just doing what you got to do to like press through it, and like you will come out on the other side, like things will be better.
Amen to that, dude.
Yeah.
Amen to that. Well, cool, man. Kyle, or should I say Ron Blanton?
That's right.
It's
Yeah.
been absolute pleasure, man.
Yeah,
I
dude.
learned so much. Hopefully we inspire a lot of people. I hope you kick ass on all the events you do next year and keep inspiring folks with the group run, man. Thank you. I'm blessed to have you on, man. We'll see you.
Yeah, dude. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. This has been really great.
Hell yeah.
See you, man.
See ya.
In Tallahassee's Pine Forest, where the trails unfold, Ron Blanton runs, a tale to be told. Cloudland Canyon's challenge, a rugged embrace, second place echoes in this Georgia race. In the quiet town of Tallahassee, where legends are spun, Ron Blanton's story, forever to run. Through winding trails and a canyon's embrace, a ballad for Ron in this runner's chase. Ron Blanton, a name in the wind. Cloudland Canyon, where his dreams begin. Second place echoes in the Georgia clay, a ballad for Ron, who runs his own way. Ron Blanton, a runner with a heart so true, through the miles, under the skies so blue. In Cloudland's shadows, where dreams find their space, a ballad for Ron in this trail runner's grace. Miles and miles beneath the southern sky, through mud and sweat, where the eagles do fly. Cloudland Canyon's 50-mile embrace, Ron Blanton's journey, a relentless chase.
Wow, what a great episode with Kyle. Thank you, buddy, for being on. You just blew my mind with inspiration, training tips, race tips, nutrition, and all other things. Kyle's amazing. If you live in the Tallahassee area, go check out Tallahassee Trail Runners on their Facebook group. Right now, since the time change, they're meeting every Monday at 5:45. Sometimes they run at the Miccosukee Greenway. Sometimes they run other places. Regardless, it is super inclusive of all race or all run paces, whether you want to walk, whether you want to walk, whether you want to run 6-minute miles. Go out there, join the group, become part of the community. Coming up from Run Bum Races, we have several races that are almost sold out. I have a couple spots left for Quest for the Crest 50K and 10K, which is the third weekend in May, up in Asheville, of course. And then we also have a few spots for the shorter distances for Grayson Highlands right now as well. Besides that, every single race that we have is sold out currently. We're also, as I just talked about with Kyle, looking at a first weekend of March. That is Saturday, March 2nd, for a race that's going to be a 50K, 25K, and probably a 10K, just 45 minutes away from Tallahassee, Florida. It is going to be super awesome. We're going to be using part of the Florida Trail if that gets approved. Again, I love every one of you guys, and I appreciate you guys listening to this podcast. I am not a run influencer. I'm not trying to be. I've run over 300 ultra marathons, and I am simply trying to share the experiences that I have, my guests have, and how can we help inspire you, help you to become a better runner, help you to run faster, help you to run further, and help you to explore the unknown on your own 2 feet. I love you guys so much. This coming weekend is our Helen holiday, half marathon and 10K, the last race for the year. So if we do not have another podcast before the new year, I just want to say I love you guys. Have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year. Be safe out there. And you don't need a new year, new you to change what you do and who you are. You can do that anytime, any day of the year. So with that, we love you. And until the next run, this is Run Bum signing off.